For years after the Vietnam War officially ended, gunfire returned, this time far from the familiar battlefields of the past, along Vietnam's southwestern border. In the mid to late 1970s, relations between Vietnam and Democratic Kampuchea collapsed, and scattered clashes escalated into open warfare by the end of 1977. Encyclopedia Britannica 1. Throughout 1977 and 1978, Khmer Rouge incursions repeatedly struck Vietnamese border communities, turning the frontier into a permanent alarm line. Wikipedia 2. In Ba Chuk and Giang Province, that violence reached a point of no return. From April 18th to April 30th, 1978, 3,157 civilians were killed in a massacre that remains one of the most searing symbols of the conflict. Wikipedia 3. It was not simply a local tragedy. It was a strategic warning, proof that post-1975 peace could still fracture overnight, and that a new war was already taking shape at the border. By late 1978, Vietnam moved into a decisive phase. On December 25, 1978, Vietnamese forces launched a full-scale offensive into Cambodia, in coordination with Cambodian opponents of the Khmer Rouge. Wikipedia 4. The campaign unfolded with stunning speed. Phnom Penh was captured on January 7, 1979, and the Khmer Rouge government was driven from power, an event Cambodians would later commemorate as liberation from genocide, even as it opened the next chapter of Vietnam's long military presence in Cambodia. Global security 5. Yet the fall of the capital did not end the war. Khmer Rouge forces withdrew toward the Thai border and shifted into guerrilla warfare, ensuring the conflict would outlast the dramatic headlines of a 2-week advance. Wikipedia 2. Then, before the Southwestern Front could stabilize, another shock came from the north. At dawn on February 17, 1979, China launched a large-scale attack across Vietnam's northern border. The fighting lasted roughly a month, before China declared its punitive goals achieved in early March and began withdrawing. Wikipedia 6. The war did not stand alone in isolation. It was inseparable from Vietnam's overthrow of the Khmer Rouge, and from the wider geopolitical tensions of the Sino-Soviet split and competing great power influence in Southeast Asia. Wikipedia 6. Two borders ignited at once, and a country still recovering from decades of conflict suddenly faced the brutal mathematics of simultaneous crises. In those days, the story of Vietnam's rapid redeployment, often remembered as a swift troop movement, became the pulse beneath the official communiques. It was a race to shift men and material from the south to the north, including forces connected to the Cambodian battlefield and southern military regions, using every route available: roads, waterways, and the air. YouTube 7. In modern war, the ability to concentrate forces at the decisive point can determine survival. But in a country with limited infrastructure, that principle turned into a logistical ordeal, an immense test of command, transport capacity, and the endurance of soldiers who had barely laid down their arms since 1975. Contemporary accounts describe late February to early March airlift operations moving thousands of troop transfers and large quantities of supplies northward in a compressed time window, part of an urgent effort to reinforce the threatened frontier. Dan Viet 24H8. At the same time, units already in Vietnam and reinforcements from multiple regions rushed toward the northern provinces, forming a continuous military flow where every delayed hour could carry a human cost. Nay in 24H9. But if we treat this redeployment only as a feat of movement, we miss the deeper meaning. It revealed the harsh reality of the post-1975 era. Vietnam was drawn into a chain of conflicts where the boundary between the Vietnam War and the wars after Vietnam blurred into a single, unbroken pressure line. In the Southwest, the escalation was driven by cross-border attacks and massacres like Ba Chuk, events that pushed the confrontation beyond any easy reversal. Wikipedia 3. In the north, the 1979 war erupted as a coercive message delivered through firepower, intensifying Vietnam's strategic burden while it was already locked into the Cambodian problem. Wikipedia 6. And even after the short war ended, its consequences lingered. Prolonged guerrilla fighting around Cambodia's borders and enduring tension along the Sino Sino-Vietnamese frontier. Wikipedia 2. Looking back at the southwestern fighting of 1979 and the swift redeployment, what remains is not only the map of advances or the language of victory and loss. It is the image of a nation forced to do two impossible things at once: confront a deadly threat on its southwestern edge and pivot rapidly to hold the north against an unexpected assault. History here is not told only through slogans. It is told through marching routes and crowded transport decks, through night flights and exhausted convoys, through the quiet stamina of people who crossed from one war into another within a single season. And in that, the lesson is stark. Ending one war does not always mean peace has arrived. Sometimes, it simply opens the door to a new chapter, colder, more complex, and demanding a new price.